Do you own a leasehold home? That means you own the property, but the land on which it's built is owned by someone else, the freeholder. This gives you the right to occupy the property for as long as the lease is valid. If you are a leaseholder, are you hit with big service charges or ground rents? Do you know your rights? The government has previously said they would crack down on house buyers being exploited by rip-off leases. But nearly a year after they promised to act, not a lot has changed. And instead, another consultation has been launched today. We investigated the problems of leaseholds on our programme last year. Here's the story of one of the homeowners we spoke to.
I had no idea that my home would be used as an endless income stream for an investor or somebody else's pension pot, because that's what it is.
Katie Kendrick bought her home from Bellway Developers. She was never told her freehold would be sold off. Now she wants to buy it. The price has gone from £4,000 to £13,000.
Where do they get that figure from?
I have absolutely no idea. I've asked the company for a breakdown of how the freehold is calculated, the methodology to the valuation, to which they've failed to provide me with. They've said that I can either go with it, or if I challenge it, then I have to take on their legal fees to do so. They have said that I can come back with a counter offer, but without all of the information on how they calculate the freehold, how can I make an informed decision how to counteract their offer? So at the moment I just feel completely blind in a corner, and I don't know which way to turn next in terms of taking legal action, but you know, that's all very costly. It's been sold to this new company for 11 months now, and they've made, well, something that was worth 4,000 11 months ago, and now they're doing 13,000. They've made a considerable profit in less than a year, which puts further pressure on me, because now I'm thinking, if that's how much their investment has gone up within such a short time, you know, I need to move quick on this. Otherwise, you know, another year, 2 years, they could sell it on and on and on, and we could be talking ridiculous.
Lindsay bought her flat with Taylor Wimpey Developers. She was originally quoted £2,600 for her freehold. 2 years later, it had been sold on, and the price was £32,000. She feels too embarrassed to show her face.
So you got a letter saying that the freehold was available?
Yeah.
But you decided at that time not to buy it?
Yeah.
And then later, what did you discover?
I rang them and said I'd like to buy it now, and they just point blank said it's not for sale. We've got a private investor who's bought it, so it's not for sale. We've got a long-term interest in your property. So I turned around and said, well, I've got a long-term interest in my property. It's my family home. It's my son's inheritance. It's not yours to just line your pockets every year with and be someone's pension fund.
What's been the impact on you of all this?
It's that fear of failure, that I feel like I've let everybody down because it wasn't right to buy it when it came.
So what has changed since we did that report, since we brought you that last year? Let's talk now to Kvein Hollinrake, who is a Conservative MP on the Housing Select Committee. Louise O'Reardon, who is a leaseholder who now campaigns to help others, and Louie Burns is campaigning to abolish leaseholds. Welcome, all of you. Mr Hollinrake, almost a year ago, the government announced you would completely abolish ground rents and make the process of buying a freehold much easier, faster and cheaper. Why is the government now announcing another consultation?
Because it needs to make sure it gets this right. There's been a consultation over the summer to decide whether the government was right in terms of acting on this, and clearly the overwhelming opinion is that it is. And now it's put specific proposals to that it needs to consult on again to make sure there's no unintended consequences.
Is that fair enough, Louise?
Well, to be honest, I don't feel that it's enough. As leaseholders, you know, lots of us are in this situation. We're not being helped. We have contributed so many times towards consultations, and what we really need is action, not just words. We need more action from the government.
Would you agree, Louie?
Yeah, I think the worrying thing is when Sajid Javid announced this last year, he said his intention was to make ground rent zero or a peppercorn. And the announcement today said that they should be £10 or a nominal fee. Well, that concerns us because there's still an option for freeholders to extract money for leaseholders, because when they claim the ground rent, they can include service charge, their administration charges.
So it wouldn't just be 10 quid?
No, there are all sorts of things, and people would buy them, and it's a revenue stream needlessly. So we're concerned that the announcements and the consultation seems to be watering down what was promised last year before we've even got there.
Is that fair?
No, I don't think it's fair at all. I mean, the government is taking action. It took action on energy prices when they were too high, when people were being ripped off.
We're not talking about energy prices now. Ground rents.
But you need need to make sure you go through a process, otherwise you'll get unintended consequences. The government's seen there's a problem here and is going to act.
It was going to get rid of ground rents.
It is going to get rid of ground rents.
But now it's saying
No, that's not true. It said get rid of ground rents completely on houses and peppercorn on flats and apartments, because there is a common interest issue on apartments that is not, you can't simply ban ground rents, or it wouldn't be advisable in my view to simply ban ground rents, but it's right to limit them to a level that is effectively nothing.
We've been told so many times, you know, as campaigners or just normal homeowners, that leasehold is going to be abolished, that leasehold houses won't be sold under Help to Buy, and that promise has not gone into fruition. And we're just suffering. We're being exploited. We're being abused continually by, you know, lots of different agencies, and the government know it. We're telling the government, please help us stop this.
It's absolutely right, and you are being exploited. You have been ripped off. On houses particularly, it's a disgrace what's happened. Free markets usually do a very good job of driving down prices, but sometimes they rip people off, and that's what's happened to you. So the government said it will abolish ground rents on new homes and also cap ground rents on apartments. But there is a big issue. The biggest issue is people like Louise who already own a property, because it's very difficult to go back to an existing contract and change that, because there are legal ramifications with that. So the Law Commission is looking at this and make it easier, I think, people like Louise to buy the freehold of her property, which would solve the problem.
Can we just be clear here that ground rents are for nothing? They don't contribute to communal. They are pure profit to the freeholder. They don't contribute to service charges.
Get rid of them.
There is no
entirety.
purpose. There is no purpose for ground rents. They don't contribute to communal living. They are profit for freeholders.
That's not quite true. You know, at times when you have a block of flats with 100 people, 100 different residents, 100 different long leaseholders, you need somebody who has interest in the overall stewardship of that building. Otherwise, it can be dominated by a very strong individual who runs the management company. So you need an independent arbiter, but it also needs to be capped at a very fair level, would be my view.
Still, ground rent plays no part in that. Ground rent goes to the freeholder as pure profit. The rest of the world, outside of the feudal system we still have here, which you can trace to 1066, uses a form of common hold. And that means that if you were a flat owner and you buy the flat, you automatically own a share of the building, the land, with your neighbours.
So you've got a stake in it without paying a ground rent?
Yes.
Can I give you an example where I think Louise is wrong here? Is in the issue of apartments with unsafe cladding on the outside of it, we've seen freeholders come in and replace that cladding and get the money back later off the leaseholders, can step in because they've got an overall interest in the overall block. I agree people have been ripped off. It needs to be at a fair level, the ground rent, but getting rid of leasehold completely, carte blanche, is not necessarily the right solution.
Well, I don't agree. You know, there is a financial impact for loads of us trapped in this situation, but there's also a very real mental health impact. You know, we're suffering, we're fighting at every step of the way. I don't see why my house needed to be a leasehold house. There is no reason for it. So why can't it be abolished? It can be abolished in its entirety. There's no reason for there to be ground rent. There's no reason for it to be leasehold, to have management fees. There is no need for it.
You say you're abolishing new leaseholds for new builds in the future. What about retrospective action for people like Louise?
That's going to be very tough, because you've got an existing contract. And I agree Louise has been ripped off. Houses, there's no reason to have leasehold houses. You can deal with that in a much better way and a fairer way. So I agree with that point. So in terms of looking at legal contracts again, there are clearly issues simply scrapping an existing legal agreement that was signed by two parties. So this has got to be looked at very carefully. The Law Commission, our most senior judges, are looking at this. Probably the easiest solution is to make sure people like Louise can buy the freehold at a very fair price, so that then can move away from a leasehold structure. That's probably the easiest way forward, but that's not simple.
Easy for you, but not necessarily for you, Louise.
And then we still have the ongoing abuse of, even if I buy my freehold, I'm not really getting a true freehold, I'm getting a fleecehold, which is a hybrid of leasehold and freehold. I'm never going to be free of hold, and I want to be free of hold.
How long will this consultation last?
I think till December. Well, it's a 6-week period from now, and the government said it will report back by December, so we'd expect legislation to commence early next year and probably be implemented either next year or the year after, I would guess.
Okay. We'll see. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the programme. Thank you.